This is the Raw Misfits show where two long-term raw vegans explore diet and lifestyle solutions to modern-day health issues. Today's topic, the psychology of a raw vegan. Welcome back to another episode of the Raw Misfits show. It seems like Sundays come up so quick now, and I love it because these shows, I feel, are bringing a lot of value to people. And we've been getting a lot of really great feedback, and so I've appreciated everybody that always shows up, and our special guest, which we have another incredible guest for you guys today. It's Olivia Herzog, who is just, so inspirational, and she has been putting out some posts about, kind of the mental and emotional side of this lifestyle, and so I thought it would be perfect to have her come on the show in Jeanette's absence to share with us the some of the things that she has seen and experienced, as well as myself. I'm going to add in my 2 cents, and we're going to try and help you guys out with kind of handling some of the mental and the emotional side of getting into this lifestyle. To be honest, that seems to be the part of this lifestyle that gets people, the most tripped up, right? So the mental and emotional side of things, that seems to be more so than the food, the thing that people get caught up on, and they just can't seem to get through some of those barriers that they run into. So we are gonna, talk to Olivia about this. We're gonna share our insights on this topic, and hopefully it will be valuable to you guys. I'm sure it will. And so let me see if I can find Olivia here. There she is. And we're going to bring her on. All right. Thank you, everybody, for showing up. Appreciate you all. And there she is. What's up, Olivia?
Hello.
Hey. Thanks for coming on the show. Appreciate it.
Yeah. I think I need to adjust this a little bit. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm getting like the bottom portion of my head.
Yep. I know. I deal with that too.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. I love this topic. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, everybody's excited to have you on the show. So, this is going to be fun. And so, anybody out there, if you have questions, so for those of you that are new to the show, we'd go over the topic, the subject first. So we'll each go over about 4 or 5 points on the subject, which today is, like I said, the emotional and mental aspects of this lifestyle. And then be sure, because the second half of the show is a Q&A. So anybody that has questions about this that you want us to answer, make sure you put those in the actual question little thing there at the bottom. You see a little
comment box
thing. Yeah, the comment box. But if you can go in the question section specifically, that's the easiest for us to go back and find the question that you guys have. So just try to do that. And also, before we get started, so this again seems to be a topic that a lot of people struggle with. And, Olivia and I have both, gone through mental and emotional, swings with this and getting into it and learning the ropes. And so I want to get an idea of in the crowd, in the audience, if you guys have had a overwhelmingly positive mental and emotional shift from getting into this lifestyle, I want you to put the number 1 in the comments box down below. If you have experienced what you believe is more of a negative emotional or psychological change from going into this lifestyle, put in the comments box the number 2. So just to get an idea of how everybody's doing with this side of things in the audience, it would be great to see. All right. So again, we're going to go over about 4 or 5 kind of bullet points of what Olivia and I have experienced and what we've seen in this lifestyle. So would you like me to start, or would you like to start first, Olivia?
You can start. Go ahead, Matt.
Okay. All right, cool. All right. So the first point that I have noticed when it comes to mental, Sorry, 1 second. The cat wanted to get out of the room. Yeah. All right. So my first bullet point for the mental and emotional changes that I've seen is that what I have found is that you're no longer at war with yourself. I feel like even if we don't consciously recognize it, subconsciously we do notice when, because a lot of us, if we're living a standard American diet, we're putting in foods, we're taking in other stimuli that are damaging to the body, right? And so if we are constantly bringing in things that are on one level or another harming us, we're really, I think our body sees that as, we're kind of attacking the body. So we're kind of at war with ourselves, with not only the foods that we take in, but also the thoughts that we think, and some of those other emotional aspects that a lot of us kind of get caught up in living in this society, in this culture, that, it's so common for people to fall into that. And so I think that once we start to bring in more of the fruits and the vegetables and the raw foods, it's really showing the body that it's not under attack anymore. That we're more loving to the body. We're creating a much more healthy environment within it. And so I think that once the body no longer feels like it's under attack, it allows us to think clearer, think more rationally, and just be much more balanced on an emotional state than when we're always dealing with the issues that come along with eating poor food choices and thinking poor thoughts. So that's my first kind of point where it comes to benefiting on an emotional aspect.
Should I respond to that, or should I move on to my own point?
Yeah, no, if you, we can talk about some of these, and yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I think that one's a really good one, and one that I didn't even write down. I wrote a post about this yesterday, sort of the spiritual benefits of not eating flesh, not eating animals. I had an eating disorder for many, many years and had a really poor relationship with food. And it's my deep belief that I would have never healed had I not started eating not only a vegan diet, but a raw or primarily raw vegan diet, because it was something, I don't know, it's hard to articulate, but something like in my soul, like in my very being, that always felt so wrong with the things that I was eating, the foods, the things that I was told were foods. Yeah. And I couldn't articulate that when I was a kid or in my early 20s. I didn't have awareness around that really, but I knew it. Like I knew it inside of me. Yeah. And those things that we eat, the processed foods, the animal products, all of those things, they're not meant for us. And our bodies, our souls, are something deeper than our crazy monkey minds, I guess, knows that. Like we know that. And we're disturbed, I think. I think we're disturbed on some level. It's like what you're talking about, that war with ourselves. Yeah. And so, yeah, once I started eating fruits and vegetables, I mean, there's more to that. There's more, work to be done, therapy, all kinds of different things that I use to heal and be well. But once I started eating fruits and vegetables, I mean, I just felt well. It felt well within my soul. Like this just felt good. I felt at peace. It didn't feel like at war with myself. It's such a good way to explain it.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah. All right. So, I guess they can all kind of build off of each other. The one that I was thinking, I always say that the primary reason that I stay raw or fully raw is for my mental health. Like, I mean, there's the ethical side of it, but like mental health over physical implications over everything, because I struggled with, like I said, an eating disorder for many years, mental health problems, depression. That's my point. I experienced relief from a lot of depression, deep depression, really ugly depression for a period of time. And, there's a lot of evidence out there to support that people who eat more nutrient dense foods, people who eat more fruits and vegetables have better mental health because of that gut brain connection, right? And so once I started removing the junk and putting in the good stuff, I found a lot of relief from depression.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. Oh my gosh. For sure. I was in a pretty dark place myself, especially like in my mid-teens. Yeah, I had somebody when I was in 6th grade. So I moved schools so I had a good group of friends when I was in elementary school, and then I moved away, or I moved to another part of town. So I went to a different school. And then when I kind of re-met up with those old group of friends in middle school, one friend in particular, I remember he told me, like, because we just didn't really I didn't hang out with those same group of friends. And the one guy that I used to be close friends with, he told me, remember when you used to be part of the cool group? And for some reason that like really stuck in my head. And so I had a lesser vision of myself from cause he said it to me repeatedly. So it was kind of like a reinforcement over and over. And so, you know, I think that kind of stuck with me in my self view for quite a few years. And then, you know, other things, like I started to lose my hair when I was like 16 or 17. And that really added to that self, you know, those negative thinking patterns. And yeah, it wasn't until I got into this lifestyle where I started to really value who I was and really appreciate my intrinsic value and what I have to offer. So yeah, I think there's something about bringing in those fruits and vegetables, and that's actually one of my points that I'll get to later on, but very similar to this, where yeah, it turns something on within your mind where you start to see much clearer and much in a much more loving way, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hear that.
Right. Okay. So my number 2 is it helps you to recognize the control you have in your life. Right. So I think most of us are kind of taught that, at least mostly in the past, but still there are people that believe this, is that genetics really control our fate, right? And so something outside of us, outside of our control, is what is going to, in the end, determine, you know, our health outcomes or our life outcomes, whatever it is. And really, when you start to eat this way, you know, for people that know my story, I grew up with asthma, eczema, you know, I was always getting sick, colds and flus, you know, all these different things that I was dealing with, depression and all that. You know, I took control of my health by bringing in more fruits and vegetables, getting away from the processed foods and the animal products. And that showed me the changes that I was making were having a significant impact on the outcomes in my life. And so it just really opened up my eyes to the power and the control that I personally have over, one, my health, but also, you know, I think it really taps us into something almost supernatural, you know, like so many more coincidences happen to me now, where, you know, I'm like really focusing on something and then all of a sudden that thing happens in my life. And I'm not talking like, you know, I think of something and it shows up on Google, which does happen sometimes, but it's more deep, meaningful things than that. So like I meet somebody that I've been like wanting that type of person to come into my life, and we end up meeting. Or, you know, I'm wanting some sort of, like, if I want to move somewhere. A few years ago, I was really wanting to move into like a house out in like outside of town, and it just so happened that there was a listing for this old farmhouse that was outside of town, not too far away, and and I ended up getting that place. And so I was living in this old farmhouse. It was out in nature, surrounded by trees, and there was deer in the yard all the time. And so it, just little things like that, where you can start to bring in, some of these things that you want to manifest in your life. Some call it the law of attraction, whatever you want to call it. You can really start to feel more like a creator in your life. And so that has been another big change for me. And in the way that relates to, your mental and emotional side, is that when you're in control, again, I feel like you feel much more emotionally balanced, right? So you're not like always kind of wondering what's going to happen next, and you're stressed and all that. So it really brings in a level of calm and a level of control. And so yeah, that's my second bullet point for that.
Yeah, that's good. I can easily build off of that with another one of mine. Another one of mine is increased levels of confidence. Oh man, it's okay. So I'll have a story. So a week ago or so, I went to bed, and I had this experience where I felt like I was transported back to, I'm 30 years old. So I was transported 10 years ago to when I was 20, and I was at college, and I was like having the experience walking the hallways, like in the body that I inhabited at 20 and in the mind that I inhabited at 20. And it was so vivid. Like I want to call it time travel. Like I was back in that experience, and I woke up the next morning and I was like stunned. I was like shocked at like the thoughts that I had, at the things that I tolerated from friends during that time. And I just completely dumbfounded by the Olivia that existed at 20 and the Olivia that's transformed at 30. I spent the whole day and maybe the next day just like completely just processing that experience that was so vivid and so powerful for me, and just realizing how far I've come in confidence and self-growth and self-awareness. And I attribute so much of that to my diet and to my lifestyle and to the other things that I've chosen because I made this foundational change. I feel like food is foundational. Food is so important. It's certainly not everything. I don't believe that, sometimes I hear in the raw community, start eating raw foods or start juicing and all your problems go away.
Right.
I wish it was that simple. I don't think
Me
so.
too.
So I'm never going to say that. I'm never going to say, start eating raw food and then everything gets better. But it's laying a really solid foundation, like a really good fundamental, you're treating your body right, you're treating your mind right, you're giving yourself the things that you need. And so from there, therapy and yoga and meditation and reading new books, all kinds of things, traveling. And so at this point, I feel like I'm just so much more confident in myself. And then it made me wonder, well, if I could grow that much in the last 10 years, like, could I grow that much all over again in the next decade? Or what if it's even more? Like, what if I could grow even more in the next decade, and on and on and on? And it's just like, I don't know. That was a crazy experience. And just wild to realize how much more I believe in myself and my power and my potential than I had any clue of when I was 20 years old. Like no clue. And man, is that something I want to gift to every person on the planet. Like how good we can feel, how powerful we are, how much we can manifest, how good life gets to be. I don't even know it to the extent that I can know it, but I know it more than I did 10 years ago. And I just think that's amazing.
Yeah. Wow. I completely resonate with that. I too, had a lot of those, transformations. I had an example in my mind and now it just slipped away. Dang it. I had a really good example, but maybe it'll pop back in my head. So for sure. Yeah. definitely. I align with a lot of those things as well. All right, so I'll go on to my third one. I'm going to try and think of what I was going to say, but yeah. Okay, so the third topic, or the third bullet point, that I believe is beneficial on a emotional and mental aspect, is that you really embody your altruistic, your innate desire to be altruistic. I think really everybody kind of has that within them, that they want to, in some way be of service, or in some way make other people feel good, and leave a positive mark on the world, right? I think deep down everybody has a little bit of that. And so once we kind of start bringing in these raw fruits and vegetables, and we start to feel the transformations, not only on a physical aspect of our own benefit, but also we are living in a way that, doesn't require the killing of other sentient beings, to the best of our ability, obviously. Of course, the people against veganism, like to point out crop deaths and things, which I'm going to make a video on, because there's a lot of misrepresentation about that. And so I've got a good idea for a video to kind of dispel that idea that vegans are causing more death through crop deaths and things like this, because it's definitely not the truth. We cannot live a 100% non-impactful life, right, to other life. And so we just have to do the best that we can. And I think that living, especially a raw vegan lifestyle, is the best way that we can do that. And so that allows us to really tap into that altruistic, mindset and life, by causing the least amount of harm to other creatures, to the environment that we all depend on, and really to ourselves. And so that, I think, is beneficial on an emotional level, even if you don't necessarily consciously, think about that. I think subconsciously your understand, like, your spirit or your soul is much happier when we are living in a way that benefits, the most amount of our environment and our, the creatures around us, as much as we can. So that is my third benefit.
Yeah, that's a good one. You have a lot of good ones. They're all good. But yeah, I definitely feel that too. Like an increasing, and it continues to grow for me, like an increasing sense of connection to everything around me, and a desire to want to serve and care for everything around me.
Yeah.
I can for sure relate to that. It's a good one.
Thank you.
Cool. Yeah. So, another big one for me, my third one, is an improvement in my focus and mental clarity. So taking it back 10 years ago when I was in college, I remember, reading a book, reading a text, reading an assignment, and like not having any idea what I just read. And then like reading it over and over and over again, and just like not comprehending. And if I did comprehend, like not having retention, that, and like back to the confidence thing, how that eroded my confidence. Like, I was so afraid to talk in class. Like, if you put me in one of those classes now, I'd have my hand up and I'd be discussing and I'd be interacting. But back then I just felt like I couldn't hold on to ideas. I couldn't formulate thoughts completely or articulate them. And my diet was pretty messed up. And that really affected my focus and my mental clarity a lot. And oh gosh, it's so different now. Like now I feel like I'm sharp. I almost feel like I'm more intelligent. I'm not sure if my IQ could have gone up since then, but I kind of feel like it might have. And I just feel like, I can read something and I can comprehend it, and I can retain it, and I can explain it back to you. And that's huge for me. That's huge for me as an avid reader and learner, and person who likes to grow. I'm teacher. I consider myself a teacher and a mentor. So that's really important for me to be able to, just be able to think properly and clearly. So that's my third point.
Yeah, 100%. I'm the exact same way. It's very reaffirming, that we have such similar experiences, because
Mm-hmm.
I basically could have said that exact same thing and it would have applied directly to me.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think that should be encouraging to other people, is that there are so many similar experiences like the ones that we're sharing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like it's a far stretch of the imagination that these same things can happen to everybody that's listening. Because I too really struggled with focus, and I even went to the doctor to get ADHD drugs because I just could not focus. This was in college. I could not focus when I was studying, and I mean, I think it was mostly because I just didn't really care about what I was studying at that time. But at the same time, there were things that, if I were to read something, which, I honestly, I did not like to read back, before I got into this lifestyle. I hated reading. I completely hated it. And I just never wanted to do it. I think one of the reasons was, just like you said, I just never retained it. So I felt like it was a waste of time. If I was going to read something and spend all this time reading, I'm not even going to remember it. So now, since I've been in this lifestyle, that's like what I do the most in my spare time is read books and study, and just try and enhance my understanding of different aspects of life and health and all these things. So yeah, definitely I am in the same way in that regard.
Yeah.
All right. So my fourth point is that not consuming the metaphysical fear from flesh, right? So we're switching from animal flesh to fruit flesh, and I believe that there is metaphysical energy that we take in from consuming animals that were slaughtered, that lived awful lives, that had a lot of trauma in their life. And so I believe I think that's one reason why, there's stories out there where they have switched, like a prison switches the diet of the inmates from the standard diet to a plant-based diet. And the the arguments and the scuffles and all that stuff goes down like 100%, right? And so everybody gets much more friendly and happy, and people aren't fighting all the time. And I believe that is partially because they're not taking in a lot of that pain and that fear and that anger that could potentially have been in the animal foods that they were eating from what they experienced when the animals were alive. And so yeah, I think that is one of the biggest factors when it comes to emotional and mental health, is that the things that we take in as food carry an energy with it, whether it's the potentially negative emotions from the animals that we eat, or I believe the plant foods that carry the energy of love and abundance and things like that. It has a dramatic shift on the energy that we hold within us. And so I personally have transformed completely. I would never, I was always slightly positive. I always kind of had a positive outlook, but I was so negative, like when it really came down to it. I would try and be positive, but subconsciously, deep down, I had some really toxic thought patterns about myself, and just about my capabilities and how smart I was. And once I got into this lifestyle, that melted away. And like I said before, I just started to really appreciate, my potential and who I am. regardless of what I do in this life. You know, I feel like, you know, the value doesn't change based on, you know, how many followers I have, or, you know, how many books I have, all those sorts of things, right? So I could never make another piece of content and my value, you know, wouldn't go down. But at the same time, it is, I believe, part of our journey and part of our soul's mission to, you know, help others gain the same understanding that we have. And I think that plays into, you know, really improving our mental and emotional states as well. So yeah, I think that the metaphysical energy that we take in changes and allows us to be much more balanced and loving with our emotional state.
Yeah, that's a good one. I agree so much. That just nicely slides into my final point, which is just that I've experienced such overall more happiness and optimism and positivity and excitement about life that it's so hard to explain if you haven't experienced it, right? If you haven't lived it. But yeah, everything is energy. What we take in, you know, like someone just commented, you know, energy is only transferred, not destroyed. And so we become what we eat. And yeah, my life and my outlook on life feels so much more hopeful. And in all the ways, I feel like my life is just better. Like, I just feel like I look around and it seems like a lot of other people see how the world is messed up and things suck. And I look around and see there's so many good things happening, so many possibilities, so many opportunities, and life is beautiful. It's amazing. And there's so many good people here doing really good things. And I see those things now. I couldn't see them before, when my life was just, my mindset and my worldview was so much smaller, and now it's so much more expansive. And yeah, I mean, even on a very like biological sense, like serotonin is created in our gut, right? And so the foods that we eat contribute to that. And so, you know, we feel better when we're eating the foods that we're meant to eat, like fruits and vegetables, and we don't feel so good when, like, in our minds and our outlook and our lack of positivity, when we're eating Doritos. So yeah, that's a really big one. That really big.
Yeah, 100%. I know. And that's pretty, I had a point very similar to that as well myself. You know, I think that when we put ourselves into, you know, more of a parasympathetic state, you know, we take in these foods that, you know, reduce the inflammation in our body, you know, don't have the chemicals in there that the Doritos have, or any of these other processed foods, or, you know, the hormones from the animal products, all those things going into the body. I think it puts the body in more of a parasympathetic state, or the rest and digest, or the heal kind of state, the healing state. And so, yeah, I think that it's really just, there's biological factors, there's emotional factors, you know, and they really overlap, I think. So I think just all of those things go together and just help us to just, feel happier and, just more hopeful in life, and see the silver lining in different things. Totally agree.
Yeah.
Cool.
Really good.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, that was actually my last one as well. That was your last one too? Yeah. Okay, cool. All right. Well, that was awesome. Hopefully people enjoyed that. So I was just thinking how Jeanette is way, so usually Jeanette like runs this show, and I don't have to like keep focusing on the comments and all this stuff. So I'm just gonna do my best here. I didn't really get any of the questions that came through. So I know Sherry was going to try and help me out with that. And so, yeah, I'm going to see. We have, I think, one question in the actual questions section that we can get to. And I didn't even see, did anybody, I'm going to ask again, because I don't even know if I saw any people putting in numbers into the comments box. So if you guys personally, so we just want to take a poll on if the raw vegan diet and lifestyle has been more of a positive emotional experience for you or a negative emotional experience for you. And if it has been negative, I hope what we've shared today has definitely helped you with kind of having a new perspective on some of that and maybe changing that into a positive. So yeah, if it's been a positive experience, please put the number 1 in the comments box. And if it has been a negative, more of a negative situation that you're still trying to work out, put the number 2 so we can kind of get an idea of how everybody's doing out there. All right. So yeah, we can get, what's that?
You're doing really good.
Thanks. It's going kind of crazy in my head here. So if it looks okay, I feel good. Okay. So yeah, let's get into the Q&A. It looks like another one popped in there. So we've got a few questions in here. All right. So Goddess Reen says, how do you stay a raw vegan? I'm vegan, but I want to become a raw vegan. Gratitude for being here to teach us. What do you think?
So there's so many aspects of this. You know, we're talking about the mental, there's the mindset, there's the emotional blocks, the emotional attachments we have to certain foods. There's the lack of mentorship, the lack of community, the lack of support. There's ideas we have around being undeserving or incapable, or of it being time consuming, or being expensive. I mean, I can go on and on and on. And so I think becoming raw, and maybe more importantly, staying raw for the long term, or mostly raw, or however much raw feels good for you, is really addressing all of those things. You know, it's really acknowledging what your limiting beliefs are around it, what you're needing. Are you needing community? Are you needing a coach? Are you needing, you know, to reframe stories that you have in your head? Maybe to throw a common one out there, I see people who, you know, you were saying about how have genes. So this is just in my genetics. Everyone in my family gets breast cancer. And so people have these beliefs that they are going to get sick, or that they're meant to get sick, or they're destined to get sick. And that belief conflicts with your desire to be raw, and your desire to be healthy and to stay healthy. And you will self-sabotage yourself because you think that you're destined to get cancer, or maybe you have a weight problem. People carry around these beliefs their entire lives that they're the fat friend, or they're the fat sister. And so not getting to the root, not being willing or able to get to the root of where that story comes from, will again keep us from succeeding and achieving highest levels of health through raw food and other means. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, 100%. Totally agree. Yeah, I think you nailed it. Yeah, I mean, there's so many aspects to it. And like you said, those self-limiting beliefs, I think, are number one in barriers that people face when trying to stay raw. You know, a lot of people can go raw for a few days, but then pretty soon their subconscious programming starts to kick up and say, hey, this isn't resonating with what we've been doing. And so yeah, it just kind of gets you to self-sabotage yourself. And so yeah, becoming aware, I think, is one of the first things that somebody needs to do if they're struggling with sticking with this lifestyle, or getting over those thoughts that they're not worthy of their health, or of whatever life they want to create. Identify the things that are holding you back, and be aware of your internal dialogue and how you talk to yourself. And also I would say to, surround yourself with people that are doing something that you want to do. So if you want to, get onto a raw vegan diet and stick with it, you could join a group or a community like Olivia has her private community where you can join, and it's a private group, right? Do you want to maybe share just a little bit about that for anybody that might want to join?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I mean, my recommendation, there's so many options. I suggest to flood your social media accounts, whatever you use, Instagram, YouTube, whatever, with the things that you want to see. Get rid of the accounts of people doing keto or making cupcakes or, whatever. Those things can be fun to watch, but flood your life with the things that you're seeing and focusing on with what you want to become. And so in this case, raw foods. So spend a lot of time doing that. That's free. Read books, join Facebook communities. I have a private community, like Matt was saying, where we do weekly support calls to talk about all the things. Like sometimes it's entirely not food related because we're whole beings with all these problems and all these experiences. And sometimes we think that we have an issue with staying committed or staying disciplined to eating the foods that we want to eat, but really it's a career issue. Maybe we're really stressed with our jobs, like we don't like the work that we're doing, and so we, that has to express itself, and so it comes out in us buying pizza, and so then we think, oh man, I suck, I can't stick to eating fruits and vegetables, and it's like, well, maybe that's not the issue at all. Maybe you need to quit your job. Like maybe we need to look at that, or maybe it's a relationship issue. There's so many different things, and so getting around people in a context like that who, are being honest. I'm pretty honest about my struggles and my life experience and the way that I navigate that to stay committed to my health goals. Maybe that could be something that's really supportive for you. There's options, but yeah, really getting connected to someone. I always say my DMs are open. Connect with people on social media, just like message them and say, I'm having a hard time. And if there's a way I can help, if there's advice I can offer, if there's a call we can have, if you want to join my program, like whatever it is, people can only help when they know that you need help. And we have to be willing. We have to be willing to reach out for that help, that support, that mentorship, whatever it is that we need. Yeah,
definitely. And guys, I would really, one of the things that I appreciate so much about Olivia is her, her genuine attitude, like her transparent, authentic, genuine personality. Like you can tell that she truly is being upfront with you about the things that she shares, and she's very open with everything. And so, I think the people like Olivia are the people that people should be following. Those are the people and the accounts that I believe are going to help you grow and learn the most. And so, find people that resonate with you and that you get that true, like genuine vibe from. And I really think that's a good way to go. All right. So, wow, a lot more questions have popped in here. All right. So Max says, what was the name of the study you mentioned about prison inmates? Oh, I don't know what the study, if it was a study, I think it was a study, but I don't know what it was called. I just recall hearing about that. I've heard other people talk about, instances where they've tried this and it made a huge significant impact on the amount of, issues that happened within the prisons. So I would maybe just Google, plant-based diet, prison study, and it'll probably come up. So yeah, I don't know what the exact study was called. All right, let's see here. Montgomery says, how do you suggest somebody start? I know your book. Yeah, I mean, for sure. I've got it over here. if anybody's interested, I do have, my book available, which I put in, as much as I possibly could to help people get started, and make it a long-term thing. It covers a lot of the things that we've talked about today. The mental and emotional side of things, subconscious programming and how to reprogram, the thoughts that you think about yourself and your potential and how healthy you deserve to be. So yeah, I would say definitely educate yourself. I think education is one of the best ways to really get started. And kind of like we just said, surround yourself with the people and the social media accounts that you are looking to emulate, right? And so that way you don't have all those distractions that can pull you off of your path and get you all kind of stuck in that circle of self-sabotage and things like that. So yeah, I would say, kind of like what we just said is just do all those things and you should be on a good track.
I concur.
All right, cool. All right, let's see. Somebody asked, do you still get cravings? Oh, there's no name, but Sherry says somebody asked if we still get cravings.
So, not a craving, but do I walk by someone eating a piece of pizza and think, man, that smells really good? I used to really enjoy pizza. It would be really nice to eat pizza in theory. I've heard other raw vegans say that they're totally repulsed by any type of animal product food. And some things do repulse me. Like I have no desire to eat a steak or chicken wings. Like that kind of grosses me out. But could I ever enjoy eating like a Boston cream donut or a piece of cheese pizza or I don't know. These things are coming to my mind. Like, could I enjoy those things? They sound appetizing in a way, like they were delicious. I think it's ridiculous to say that they aren't delicious, because they are. They're profoundly addictive and meant to be the tastiest things we can think of. But do I crave it? No. Like I don't live in a constant battle with myself, really wanting to eat things and always denying myself. Like that's not the way of things. I really, really, really enjoy my food. If you follow me, if you watch my stories, I talk about that all the time, how much I love my food. I love my food. I love food more now than I ever have. And I've always considered myself a foodie. I'd eat anything before and enjoy all the cuisines. And nothing compares to the deep love and appreciation and gratitude I have for my food now. So, there's reasons for that. There's ways to, not have cravings. There's like the biological, like what we feed our gut is what we crave. You stop eating donuts, you stop craving donuts. Start eating peaches, you start craving peaches. There's staying full, not being hungry. People tend to think they get cravings because they're just hungry sometimes and undercarbed. So making sure that you're eating sufficient amount of food and not denying yourself. I mean, there's lots of different components to why people get cravings. So the short answer is no, I do not get cravings. But yes, I can admit that the old foods I used to eat were very delicious, and they still look delicious sometimes when I see someone else eating them. Yeah,
same, 100%. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to say that, pizza was my favorite food, right? I loved pizza, and sometimes I still think about it, right? Like, especially if, somebody around me has some or whatnot, but I don't crave it. Mm-hmm. If anything, it's more like entertaining to myself to think about it sometimes, but it mm-hmm. never is at the point where I would ever come close to actually eating it, mm-hmm. right? So, and again, I think that goes back to the whole theme of this show is getting control of your emotional state mm-hmm. and understanding you are in control. Like you make the choices, right? It's not, nobody else is going to make you eat the pizza. Mm-hmm. If you allow yourself to eat it, you have to realize, you have to figure out what your thought process is that's leading you to do that, so that you can correct it if it's not something you want to do.
Yeah.
I always say, cravings, and I 100% agree with the points Olivia made about why we get cravings. One other kind of perspective that I like to give people is that, we're basically trained our whole lives that we reward ourselves or we soothe ourselves with these processed, highly addictive foods. So, and anytime we have an elevated emotional state, like a birthday party or a sporting event or, any sort of get together, an anniversary or a holiday, we always have these highly addictive, things that we eat. I don't want to call them foods. So, cake at a birthday party or, pizza, So when we get older, now we're adults and we've been programmed that when we have an elevated emotional state, such as stress, stress raises our emotional state just like excitement does. And so if we're stressed with all the different things going on in the world, whether it's just paying our bills or whether it's, all the other things that have been happening lately, people have been conditioned that once their elevated emotional state kicks in, that they're attracted to these foods that they've always their entire life been conditioned to use in those conditions, right? And so what I do is, in the early days, anytime I would want to eat something that I knew I didn't truly want to eat, I would just eat like a few pieces of really juicy fruit, right? And that in itself would kind of eliminate that really, it would dull the drive to go eat that thing. And so then I could make a much more rational decision on what I was going to eat, right? So getting in the hydration, getting in the, the nutrients from the juicy fruit and the carbs, that was enough to, just allow my brain to start thinking a little more clearly rather than, when we're hungry, we just, start to want everything, right? And so using that tip made a big difference for me. And yeah, just not having those things in your home if you don't want to eat them, just keep it out of your house. But yeah, just understanding the process of, what the emotion is triggering in you, and just become aware of it and then start working your way into another pattern, right? So eating that juicy fruit can start to recondition your subconscious habits, and that's one tip that I could offer.
Yeah, can I add a little more?
Yeah, of course.
So yeah, back to what we were talking about how we, feel so much more happiness and optimism and just so much better about life. That is something that really keeps me committed, really keeps me motivated, knowing that like I feel so good now, and no pizza in the world tastes so good that it's willing to sacrifice how good I feel, not just in my body, but in my mind. And for me, most importantly, in my mind, and my outlook on life. And so I think it's Tanny Raw that has that little saying, nothing tastes as good as feeling good feels, or maybe that's someone else. I think it's her though, but yeah. I think that's so true for me. Like, the pizza tastes good, the beer tastes good, I get it. I'm with you. It tastes good. But feeling good feels so much better. And also getting to the point where, back to the mindset of, we think, oh, the pizza, the beer, the Burger King, whatever, those things taste really good. Those are like the pinnacle of pleasure with food. Well, that's a story. That's an idea. But what if like raw tacos or peaches or a mango banana smoothie, like taste so good too? Like they're really enjoyable. Like you can shift your beliefs around that being the most pleasurable, desirable foods in the world to those things. And I think Matt and I can totally get on board with that and agree that we love our food so much and it's not a deprivation, it's not a sacrifice, it's not restrictive, and so it's not hard to eat salads every single night because they're so good. And we've learned that through habit and practice and mindset shifts. So stop looking at those other things like, things you really want so bad but you can't have, like,
right,
forget about them.
Yeah. Yep. 100%. 100%. Yeah. And just redefining your definition of food, right? Like, if you don't see something as food, you're not tempted to eat it. Like, I wouldn't want to eat, my book, because I just don't see it as food. And so that's the same thing. I don't see pizza as food anymore. And if I did eat it, which over the years I have tried vegan pizza, and it doesn't, like, it tastes, it's an initial pleasure. Like, it does taste, pretty good. Not as good as it used to taste, but it was good. But then I don't feel good after I eat it, right? And like Olivia was saying, if you don't feel good, try eating this lifestyle and see how you feel. Because if you have ever had, now I know not everybody has access to, all these amazing fruits, but when I was in Colorado, and there's good peaches everywhere, but or in a lot of places, but when I was in Colorado a few years ago and I ate a really ripe peach from Colorado, oh my gosh, it was like nirvana. It was seriously like the most amazing thing. But even on other fruits like figs, when I get really good figs, oh man, there's like, I can't imagine ever like wanting to eat anything else. Like, so when you eat really good fruit, if you can find really good fruit, you will understand, the true nature of what we should be eating. Because you take the pizza, it tastes pretty good, and then you feel like crap. But with the fruit, it tastes really amazing, like unbelievably good, and you feel amazing afterwards as well. So do you want that short-term pleasure and long-term pain, or do you want just pleasure the entire time, right? Like, it's just benefits from, front to end with going with fruit. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question. Let's see. What are the metaphysical aspects of eating raw?
That was your point. Go ahead.
You want me to take that one? Okay. So personally, I believe the metaphysical aspects of raw are, one, I believe that nature infuses plants and fruits especially with a loving vibration, right? So when I think of what I want my life to be like, and I look at fruit, fruit is bright, it's colorful, it's delicious, it's sweet, it's, nothing has to die in order for me to eat it. Those are the types of energies that I want attached to the things that I bring into my body. So I want my life and I want myself to be bright and sweet and delicious and, all those types of things. And so I think that is one of the big benefits metaphysically from eating more fruit. But even other vegetables and things, I still believe they have that loving vibration, right? Of nutrients and enzymes and hydration that are all charged with the energy of the earth. And, earth, while there are some strangely gruesome things that happen, in nature, I think overwhelmingly it's a loving system, right? So it always looks to expand and grow and, improve. And so, I believe that nature is a loving entity, and that the more we can bring in those unaltered products, or not products, but fruits and vegetables into our body, the more we're going to reflect that loving energy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's super good. I feel like I often say that I feel so much more connected to the divine, connected to the earth, connected to other people, you know, just more perhaps how it should be, how maybe it was in the Garden of Eden or wherever the beginning times were. Eating fruits and vegetables feels like it brings me back into that state of how things were, how things maybe should be. And yeah.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Yeah, people don't always recognize that, you know, it was called the Garden of Eden, right?
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
the slaughterhouse of vegan. Or, yeah.
Oh,
All right, somebody asks about our view on nuts. Are they human food or not?
I think the preparation of nuts and seeds, I'm probably going to lump those two things together, is really important. So eating nuts and seeds that are soaked and sprouted is really important. I think that there can be damage done in our bodies when, you know, maybe not once, but over a period of time, we continue to eat raw things that haven't been soaked and sprouted. That's how I believe people have been consuming them for centuries, for maybe since the beginning of time. And I think some of the reasons that people think that they're not human food is because they're just not preparing them properly. So I think they're human food. I think they're an important part of our diet, especially those of us who aren't living in the tropics and aren't getting coconut flesh and durian and maybe a lot of avocado and other fats, because fat is an essential part of our diets, I believe. And so I eat nuts and seeds, many more seeds than nuts. I will say I prefer the macro ratios in seeds over nuts, but I think they're human food. Yeah.
Yeah, 100% agree. Yep, definitely. It's important to, soak them and you know, just make sure that you're preparing them correctly. And I think they're also an important part of, especially for people like us in, you know, the non-tropical areas to get all the nutrients and everything that we need.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Are you 100% raw?
I am not 100% raw. I don't know if that's allowed on this channel.
I'm not either.
Oh, aren't you?
No, not always.
I have to ask your question. Okay, so yeah, I was 100% raw for, I don't know the exact time, 4 years. And 3 years, 4 years, mostly fruit, just a lot of fruit, fruitarian. I'm still mostly raw, very high raw, but I occasionally eat potatoes. I occasionally eat, I have spaghetti squash in my garden right now that I love spaghetti squash. And so I bake spaghetti squash and eat that with my salads. And I'll eat other things here and there. I'm not really thinking of things. Maybe condiments. I don't always use all raw condiments. I'll use like a Dijon mustard. People always want to know the specific things I eat that aren't raw. I don't know if that's so important, but yeah, I am not fully raw. And I think fully raw is amazing if that's what you want to do. I think that's so great. I'm so in support of people doing that. But I also feel like there's an idea a little bit in the raw community that it's fully raw or bust. Like it's fully raw, you're not getting the benefits. And I don't feel resonant with that. Again, I'm not trying to talk people out of being fully raw, but I'm also very much willing to exist in the world as the world is, and with all the things that come with that, the craziness in that's happened politically and socially over the last couple years, the relationships that we all have, the food that we're able to source based off of where we're living in the world. There's so many factors, and I think that doing the best we can, eating as many fruits and vegetables as possible, is an awesome, amazing goal. and whether or not that's 100% or 95% or 70% or 40% to me is pretty irrelevant, actually.
Yeah. Yep. Same, exactly. Yeah, I'll go periods of time where I am 100% raw to the most of my ability anyways. Maybe some, you never really know, I guess, with some of the nuts and seeds or, some of those things, but, without getting super technical about it, yeah, I'll go long stretches being all raw but I'm not opposed to, being practical. It's not always ideal as far as fruit quality here in Minnesota, like all year round. And so, especially during those times, I'm not opposed to putting steamed vegetables or potatoes into my salad. Now I always, make the disclaimer that if I ever do eat cooked food, I always eat it with a big leafy green salad, a big raw salad, because if I don't, it really doesn't digest well for me. But when I eat cooked food with a big salad, then it does. And so, like Olivia said, the world that we're in, the structure that our society is, kind of based on, it's not conducive always, especially for most people. Some people can do it for sure, and I think that's awesome. And I also would never dissuade somebody from being 100% raw if they can do it. But I think it's more important to be practical and live and eat in a way that is sustainable for the long term, healthfully. I see too many people, they can go a few months or even a few years eating a certain way that is much more restrictive. And when I say restrictive, I'm not, I know people say raw veganism is restrictive or, eating a plant-based diet is restrictive. To me, restriction is when you eliminate things that are healthy unnecessarily, and in a way that isn't sustainable for you. I don't think restriction should include unhealthy foods. Like, you don't eat hot dogs, that's restrictive. No, hot dogs aren't food. So
yeah.
yeah. So yeah, I think it's more important to be practical because, like we talked about last week with Nate, there's the blue zones. Historically, the blue zones have been very healthy people. They're not 100% raw. There's very healthy, whole food, plant-based eaters that are not all raw, and they've lived into their hundreds very healthfully. So I'm not in the same camp with the people that say raw is law. I think you can be very healthy having cooked food, cooked plant foods, whole foods in your diet. I think it's very important when people are thinking about eating, cooked food, that they keep it whole foods. The vast majority, keep it whole foods. Don't get into those processed vegan junk foods. Make sure it's whole foods. Make sure that it is, as you process it at home, in whatever way. Personally, I like to use an Instant Pot, to pressure cook, or or a steamer. Those are really mostly the only ways that I have my vegetables when I steam them or pressure cook them. And so yeah, I'm more about the long-term sustainability and healthy in not only healthy foods, but having a healthy mindset towards food, and not thinking that a potato is like gonna destroy your health, because I don't think that's true. But again, whatever people, everybody's different, everybody wants to do a different thing. I'm just saying what has worked for me, and you can take what you want from it and leave what you don't. So
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Any good recipe to prepare raw oyster mushrooms?
Raw oyster mushrooms. Do you have any that come to mind?
I mean, I don't eat them too often. Like every once in a while, they have them at the farmer's market here. And I mean, I don't really make recipes with them. I just toss them and I chop them up and put them in a salad. I'm very simple when it comes to how I eat. So I don't make a ton of recipes.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just put it in a salad.
Yeah, I'm thinking with oyster mushrooms, that's pretty much what I do too. Nothing else is really coming to mind. You could like make, blend them up, add some spices, add some seeds and make like a mushroom meatball. But I don't know that I've ever done that with oyster mushrooms, but I'm sure it would work just fine. I've done it with all kinds of other varieties of mushrooms. But yeah, I think for oyster mushrooms, I'm pretty much the same. Just chop them up, toss them on a salad. Pretty much all mushrooms are really delicious if you marinate them a little bit. So maybe a little bit of coconut aminos, a little bit of maple syrup. Those things for the strict people might not be raw enough for them, but maybe like a little bit of lemon juice and marinate them and just let them sit on your counter for an hour or pop them in the dehydrator and let them cook down. It'll be like you're having sauteed mushrooms. That could be an option, but yeah, mostly just a simple chop and toss in the salad for me too.
Cool. Okay, Scott says, any advice for someone with bladder cancer?
You go.
Okay, so definitely not going to give medical advice on here. I'm not a doctor or anything. So, but just from, a general standpoint, from what I've learned about, the bladder and the kidneys and, personally, if I had bladder cancer, I would be on a 100% raw diet. I would minimize my protein intake, especially if somebody's still eating animal protein. Animal protein causes hyperfiltration in the kidneys, and I would assume that would affect the bladder as well. And yeah, for me, I would just want to stay with, as alkalizing, easy to digest foods like, fruits and greens, and just keep it simple from a dietary aspect. But, I don't know, the specifics. I've never really looked into how I would specifically go after that issue, but those are some of the general, things that I would start considering.
Yeah, I concur with that as well. Definitely, I would cut out the nuts and seeds that I normally eat, go low protein, low fat, high carb, mostly fruits, green juices, carrot juices, maybe lots more juices. And yeah, then there's like the other aspects of, why we manifest cancer in our body. Is there some sort of trauma stored in your bladder or whoever's bladder or whatever area of the body? There's a lot of things to look at for why those things happen, because raw vegans do get cancer. So it's not always a food thing. It can be a trauma or a stored emotion or something in the body. It can be stress. We all carry stress in different parts of our body. I carry stress in my abdomen. My husband carries stress in his shoulders. And so he gets shoulder pain and he's like, I didn't do anything. Well, he's stressed. And so, there's all kinds of different things that are always happening for us that, we need to look at all of it when we have something going wrong like that.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. That's great points. Yeah, I hold stress in my diaphragm for sure. That's where.
Same.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, Scott, hope that helps. Cynthia says, so what is your guilty pleasure? What food you wouldn't say no to?
Wouldn't say no to. Man, I don't think of foods like that, like a guilty pleasure or like a cheat meal or a cheat food. This is only something I get to have on a special occasion. Like that's a mind game for me that I don't want to play. I always say I eat everything I want all the time, whenever I want it, always. And that's sincerely how I live. I eat everything I want all the time, whenever I want it. So, I mean, maybe like a splurge would be to buy a bunch of frozen durian. That's something that I don't necessarily do, not because I think it's bad to do, just because it's kind of expensive. But yeah, that's the only thing that comes to mind is durian.
That's funny. That was what came to my mind too,
Yeah.
durian, because same. I really just don't look at food that way either. It's like everything that's on my menu is pretty much something that I would feel completely comfortable eating. And yeah, I mean, durian did come up. I would just say the things that give me that kind of that feeling of like a guilty pleasure, it's really any super ripe quality fruit. And yeah, splurging on durian is definitely something. If anybody, you know, has a Costco membership, the first time I've ever seen durian at Costco, they had it just this last time we were there. So if you're interested in trying it out, and obviously it's at Asian markets too, so you can go to Asian markets and get it. But our Costco had, now I forget the name of it, the kind of it. It has an M in it.
Montong?
No, it's like, I think it's supposed to be like the best kind. It's like, is it King Moo something?
King Moo?
King Moo durian? Isn't that a kind?
If it's a thing, I'm not aware of it.
All right. Yeah, I'll have to put it in the comments after the show. I forget what it's called.
Sounds like a point or something. Let's go to King Moo for burgers and milkshakes.
Musan King. Yeah, that's the one.
Musan King. Okay, yeah. Okay, you were on the right track.
Yeah. Wow. I'm surprised because I didn't think I was even close. So Thank you, Jessica. I appreciate you putting that in there. Yeah. So that's really like my guilty pleasure is durian as well. But if I can find like really good cherries, like I'll splurge on some cherries. I love cherries. Yeah, things like that.
Yeah.
So it's never going to be really a processed vegan food for me.
Yeah, same.
Okay. Looks like we got two more. All right. Do you eat beans?
I do not eat beans. I eat sprouted chickpeas. I like to make sprouted hummus. I have some sprouting right now, so I can make some hummus later. I think that's it. I eat azuki beans. I sprout azuki beans. So I guess I do eat a few beans. There's probably another one I'm not thinking of, but I sprout them. I don't cook them.
Yeah.
So short answer.
Yeah. And pretty much same here. I sprout like mung beans and
mung beans.
I did actually from True Leaf. I bought soybeans, sprouting beans for soybeans. Only because I saw other people like Doug Evans, he was eating them, and for some reason, like I usually don't eat soy, but for some reason I was drawn to it. So,
Were they good?
And the first batch I tried to sprout, I haven't actually had them yet because the first batch I tried to sprout, they went bad. So, so yeah, I got to try it again. But yeah, generally I don't eat beans unless they're like sprouted. But I do live with two people that do eat, cooked vegan. And sometimes they'll make like a bean dip, and every once in a while I'll put some in my salad. So, it's not a regular thing for me, but sometimes I will indulge. So I guess maybe that's a guilty pleasure, but I would still say fruit is much more pleasurable than any bean.
Yeah.
All right, last question here. Can you both share your favorite salad dressing? I've yet to find one that I like that's raw.
Yeah, I mean, Matt has such good ones. I have, I'm super simple. I have a lot of dressing recipes, but what I do on repeat is like 2 tablespoons tahini, 2 tablespoons lemon or lime juice, 1 tablespoon maple syrup, mix it up, drizzle it over. Sometimes I'll add coconut aminos, again, if you use that. If you don't use maple syrup, you can use dates. So 2 tablespoons tahini, 2 tablespoons lemon juice, maybe 2 or 3 medjool dates, blend it up in the blender. Might have to double that recipe to get the blender going. But yeah, I love tahini. Tahini is my favorite fat source, and I do that simple recipe on repeat all the time.
Nice. Yeah, I love the simple recipes. Like if you have to find like a bunch of crazy ingredients, or if it's a ton of ingredients, a lot of times, personally for me, I don't like to continually do that. So I'll do it every once in a while, but simple is what I always go for. And yeah, I do have, again, the book here. It has 21 of the dressings that I love. And probably, I mean, it's hard to really pick a favorite because it really depends on the mood I'm in. But I think consistently, I think the one that I guess I would probably go with is Smokehouse. It's got smoked paprika and a few dates in there, and sunflower seeds. I don't know. You can get it for free on my website if you just download the in my shop. It's the Cravings Buster kit. So just look for Cravings Buster kit. I think that's what it's called. But it's free, and it has that dressing in it, so you can get it there. But yeah.
Cool. Yeah. I've tried a bunch of Matt's dressings, and I haven't found one that I don't like. And I also appreciate the simplicity of it. And I always say, like, just adding a different herb or a different spice to a very basic dressing recipe can make it taste like an entirely different recipe, entirely different flavors. So yeah, they're simple. Don't be intimidated by dressings.
Yeah, I know. Once you get like the basics down of a dressing, like Olivia said, you just tweak it a little bit, different herb, whatever, and it tastes completely different. So yeah, you can make a ton of different tasting recipes with the same like basic structure. Cool. All right. Well, that is the last question in our question section. So I think we will end it with that. Amazing answers and advice and insights from Olivia. So thank you, Olivia, again for being a guest on the show and filling in for Jeanette.
Absolutely. I'm no Jeanette, but I'm glad to be here.
No, it's such, I mean, it's nice to have other people on the show, but yeah, I can't, I feel like you and Jeanette would be I think you guys would make a good show. She's a much better host, so.
Yeah, you did good. You did really good. I think, yeah, this was fun. And I think we shared a lot of good information. So hopefully people were listening.
100%. Yeah. And I mean, again, I just want to, kind of share with everybody that, I fully appreciate, the openness. I see your stories and you're answering like hundreds of questions like all the time. So I think that's like putting out such a valuable service to people, and it just shows that you're out there trying to help people, and you're always so honest with people. And so it's just something that I've always appreciated about you. And also your recipes are incredible. So anybody that's looking for an authentic perspective on the lifestyle and how to make it work successfully, go check out Olivia. If you're not already following her, I'm sure everybody here already is, but if you're not, go follow her. Look into, if you're trying to get into the lifestyle long term, think about getting her books and her joining her private community. And yeah, so just wanted to say how much I appreciate you, and thank you again for coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. I appreciate that kindness, and yeah, this has all been good.
All right. Well, everybody, next week it's going to be how to make the raw vegan lifestyle fun and exciting with Lissa from Raw Food Romance. Yep. So we've got another great guest for you. And then after that, I think Jeanette will be back. So I hope everybody enjoyed this episode. And if you have any questions that we didn't get to, just make sure to DM me or I'd say DM Jeanette, but probably just DM me because she's busy. And yeah, again, reach out to Olivia if she's always answering questions in her stories. So yeah, a lot of ways to get your questions answered. All right. So thank you again. And yeah, we'll see all you guys next Sunday.
Cool. All right. Bye, everybody.
All right.
Thank you for watching the Raw Misfits Show. Tune in next week for another exciting episode.